You create a company that's like close to being a fascist, and then like.
Okay. Well, how am I?
Sorry.
Let's go through this. How am I a fascist?
Dude, like
Can you name one thing I believe that's fascist?
You believe that like you on. Oh, shit.
Don't boo him. Let him think.
But
I'm such a bad fascist. I let the people who disagree in open mic to talk to me for 2 hours uninterrupted.
Okay.
I'm an awful fascist. I'm more like a free speech liberal of the 1970s, not a fascist.
But I just want to say Turning Point USA is a evil company that was funded by thousands of fracking companies, and that just...
No, it's not thousands, but we do have some frackers that give us money. But
yeah, and then all it is making the rich more rich.
Fascism to fracking.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
Okay, again, I'm happy to have a debate. I can see you're getting kind of fired up.
I'm sorry.
So, but why are we evil? Like, we're having a nice discussion.
Because
all of a sudden you're calling me like
because
a fascist.
it seems like you just want the rich get even more rich. Like
we haven't talked about the rich at all. I mean, so you don't even know my positions on this stuff at all. And by the way, just so we're clear, the wealthiest counties in the country all vote for Democrats. You know that, right? 8 out of 10 of the wealthiest counties in the country vote for Democrats. The wealthiest people, absent Elon Musk, are all on the left. Jeff Bezos, George Soros, Mark Benioff, Mark Zuckerberg, Laurene Powell Jobs. On the left, yes. The richer you are, the more likely you are to be a Democrat and on the left.
Explain that to me, please.
The numbers speak for itself. The Democrats are the party of the oligarchy. Can you name one tech CEO outside of Elon Musk that is a conservative?
I personally think... Let me think. Peter Thiel?
Yeah, that's one. That's one. Larry Page, Google, on the left, worth $120 billion. Sergey Brin, Google, $130 billion on the left. Laurene Powell Jobs, Mackenzie Bezos, Jeff Bezos.
If they're on the left, what has they done that was like, quote unquote, to do the left stuff?
Well, okay, so Larry Page gives money to left-wing NGOs all the time.
Like, if you're on the left, I don't think you will ever be this rich.
Well, they are. You know why? Because the left
they're not.
No,
because they're not.
The left is a scam. The left uses
How is this?
Let me tell you why. It's a good question, actually. The left uses people like you that think that, oh, we're going to fight the rich. Well, they protect their oligarchy. While you guys have to keep on working hard and never own anything, when we conservatives are the ones that actually want to restore the American middle class and bring jobs back to this country.
How would you restore?
Let me finish. The left uses people like you every day, and they use people on you by the trans thing, the abortion thing. Keep voting for us because the fascists are going to take your rights away. When who's funding the left? The richest people. George Soros. Do you know who George Soros is?
Who is funding? Dude, I have never seen a leftist organization come to campus spreading their propagandas.
Well, because the whole university is a leftist organization spreading propaganda.
It's liberal. There is a clear-cut difference between a leftist and a liberal. Please make that
You're coming after this in a good way because I'll just say Democrat politics, okay?
Okay.
Almost every major, powerful, wealthy person in the country, over $100 billion in net worth, with the exception of one person, Elon Musk, is on the cultural left and gives money to the left. Mark Zuckerberg gave $400 million in the 2020 election to help get Joe Biden reelected through the Center for Technology and Civic Life. Mackenzie Bezos.
That helps his case, obviously. He would donate money to his...
Okay, but hold on. One second. Mackenzie Bezos with $45 billion, major Biden backer. Laurene Powell Jobs worth $20 billion. Steve Jobs' widow, one of the most radical left-wingers in the Emerson Collective. Mark Benioff from Salesforce worth $12 billion. One of the most radical left-wing guys that you'll see out there. The eBay guy, Omador, one radical left-wing. It's so important for you on the left. You guys are being scammed and gamed, because they talk a good game about building the middle class, but it is not the party of democracy, it's the party of oligarchy. And you can go fact check me tonight, and you might actually have cognitive dissonance. Type in this: wealthiest counties in the country, they almost all vote for Joe Biden. Who gives the most political donations to the left? All the wealthy people. Go look up the top billionaires on the Forbes list, the top 100. Only about 10 of them give the Republican, the other 80 give the Democrat, the other 10 don't give at all. It is mind-blowing when you realize the shift in power the last 10 years. Republicans used to be the party of the rich. You know what changed? We nominated a class traitor as our nominee, Donald Trump. As soon as Donald Trump became our nominee, all the billionaires said, we don't want him anymore. He talks about things we don't like. He wants to end the wars, close the border, bring jobs back to this country. We want to keep on supporting a political party that doesn't want any of that stuff. Explain to me how Joe Biden represents the working class in this country. He doesn't.
He very much supports the unions.
It's a hold on a second. The union or the union bosses? Big difference. The union bosses support and the rank and file love Trump. The UAW loved Trump more than Biden. The carpenters union loved Trump more than Biden. The police union. The point is this, is that the Democrat Party, they are sitting on a house of cards of young activists that truly want to go like crush the rich. And there is some truth to that. Like there's a very rich oligarchy in this country that remains rich and stays rich off of gaming government systems and public policy. And you guys give them a free pass because you think that we're fascists when in reality, we're the ones that are actually fighting to destroy the oligarchy the most.
All right, last question.
Last point.
Last question. Let's say, so you do want to fight for the American middle class, and
that's
how,
my, yes.
Okay,
that's
how does freer the market like helps with the middle
again,
class?
I want precision in free markets, but
how does free market support the middle class?
Again, I'm not puritanical, but I think that generally more choices are a good thing. I think that generally supporting entrepreneurs is positive, but I think that mass immigration is really bad for American workers.
There's no mass immigration.
Well, first of all, how many people are... Wow. Well, you're right. There is mass invasion, but how many people are coming across the southern border every day?
I don't know, but like...
No, I'm actually genuinely curious. Can you guess?
Okay. On what time frame?
Every day.
Every day? 500?
Yeah. It's at its low point, it's at 10,000 right now. It was 15,000 last month. So what does that annualize? Let's play that out.
A lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So that's mass immigration, right? How many green cards do we give out every year?
Oh, probably a lot.
Yeah, a lot. About 1.2 million,
well,
right?
What's wrong with giving out green cards?
I'm not saying anything wrong. No, you said there's no mass migration. So I'm just trying to tell you, we do have mass migration, right? We have 3 million on the southern border, and then we have 1 million green cards, right? That's 4 million a year, right? Which is basically bigger than most U.S. states. Now, everything comes with a cost. When you have mass migration, you're going to get lower wages. But that means you're going to disenfranchise American workers. What, are you studying computer science?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so you're an American born, I'm guessing, American raised? I don't want to assume.
I wasn't, but I moved to the U.S.
Okay, well, you're an American now, I guess. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I am.
Student visa? Okay, you're going to now have to compete. You're kind of proving my point, but that's a separate issue. You're now going to have to compete against foreign labor for your computer science jobs. I think we have a moral obligation to American-born workers to give them preference and priority and restrict the labor supply so that our computer science majors can have higher wages, not to have suppressed wages so some tech CEO can bring in a bunch of Indians and suppress their, no, nothing against Indians, but just, bring down their wages.
Personally, I just think that, like, if you came to America and then receive a green card, I think you get to work however you want. Like,
okay, I think that American-born citizens
and then
should be
there shouldn't be a priority because they're American citizens.
Well,
as long as you're
that's where we're
American
different.
citizen.
I actually think you must have a priority to your own citizens, or else you don't have a government. You have something else. If you don't have a priority to your own people, I don't know what you have. You have a colony, not a country. You're just a big economy, and that's fine if that's your position. By the way, your position is held by the ruling elite. Where I think that we should have a country, not just a colony, where the American-born citizens should be given preference over foreigners. Nothing against foreigners. I think they're nice people, but the Americans should be given first preference. And by the way, any sane country believes that. We're like the only country in the world that says, and certain European countries, come on in and take whatever you want. So let me ask you a question. So in the CRT literature, what do they think of white people or whiteness?
Who would you like me to quote?
Kimberly Crenshaw.
I haven't read Kimberly Crenshaw
She says that
yet.
whiteness is a cancer or a toxin on our society.
The concept of whiteness, the racial concept of whiteness.
Okay, so what is whiteness?
What is whiteness?
Yeah, define it.
As Kimberly Crenshaw would probably say, the sort of construction of privilege that comes with being white in this country.
Right, so what privilege do you and I as white people have that black people don't have?
Yeah, great question. On applications that are blindly judged, white-sounding names are often given the job more, they're paid more.
Not true. In fact, it's the opposite. There's black privilege right now. It's called affirmative action, where underqualified blacks are taking Asians and white people's places in universities across the country. True or false?
True.
Okay, so yeah, there's black privilege, not white privilege
I
in this
actually
country.
don't think affirmative action is how we address education inequality.
Okay, well, that affirmative action is still largely supported by the CRT regime. But let's get back to CRT, to the essence of it.
Sure.
CRT believes in one manifestation of its ideology is black-only dormitories. So white people are not allowed. Do you believe in black-only dormitories?
No, and I don't have to agree
Okay.
with
No,
every
you're
aspect
being
of an
fair.
ideology
Fine.
to argue for it.
So then what part of CRT do you like? Because they call whiteness a toxin, black-only dormitories, and if you want to talk about like ideological or intellectual sloppiness, the 1619 Project was...
I think it's very sloppy.
Okay, we agree. Nicole
I
Hannah-Jones...
think it's overstated, and
Okay.
I think some of
You're
parts
being
are
fair.
inaccurate.
Okay, good.
The parts of CRT that I think are most relevant and, very factually, you can, what am I trying to say? There's a lot of evidence for them, is the fact that previous inequalities, such as the institution of slavery, such as our treatment of Native Americans, do in fact affect those populations today. And you were saying before, in inner cities, there's a lot more crime, and a lot of that is because of redlining and other practices that come directly from the mistreatment of minorities previously in this country.
So I want to make sure I understand. So black people make up 13% of the American population.
Oh, 1350, my favorite.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they commit 55% of all the murders?
Super great question. It's basically a very complex intersection of race and economic status. It's pretty well known that minority people tend to be in a lower economic status because of discrimination that
So
they
then why
face.
don't poor Asians commit a lot of murders?
Also a great question. Asian people weren't originally brought to America on purpose like black people, and they weren't already present here like natives.
Wait,
I'm not finished, please.
so blacks murder because they were brought here 250 years
No,
ago?
I would like to finish.
Okay, just answer. It's very simple. Black.
I am answering.
No, I know, but you're not really. You're
I
kinda-
am. Asian
okay.
Americans predominantly immigrate here for work reasons. They come from already wealthy countries. They're already wealthy when they get here. Crime is committed primarily
First
by
of all,
poorer
that's not
people.
true. Talk to anybody from Who's Vietnamese? Anybody? Did your family come here wealthy?
No.
Yes
Not
and
wealthy,
no. Okay.
but not. I'm
Yes
not
or
saying
no?
they come
No.
here. Okay.
The average Vietnamese does not come here wealthy.
I'm not. Okay. I perhaps misspoke. Not wealthy, but a lot of the. You complain about it all the time. A lot of the immigration from countries that border us, right? It's sort of desperate people who are of a lower economic status, right? And they're coming here for a better life.
So two things. Number one, there's been more blacks that have legally immigrated to this country in the last 30 years than were ever brought as slaves. That's number one. Number
Okay.
two, you still haven't answered the question.
I'm trying
But
to.
why-
It's a complicated answer.
Black people are only 13% of the population, yet they commit 55% of the murders. Why?
Because black people tend to be in lower economic statuses because of
Okay, no, this is
CRT.
fine. This is great.
Basically,
So you think that poverty equals crime?
I think that it's highly correlated, and there's a lot of studies
This is where
on
we
that.
disagree. What an insult to the working poor
So
of this
why
country.
do you think black people commit more
Well,
crime,
first
Charlie
of all,
Kirk?
so let me ask you a question as
No,
my
answer it. Go on.
What percentage of blacks have a father around when they're raised?
I'm not sure.
20%.
So that's why you
80% of
think it
blacks
is.
do not have a stable father around. It is the most predictable way to end up in prison, end up as a murderer or a criminal.
And why
It's
do
not a
you think that's
racism
a problem?
It's not a white supremacy problem. It's a fact that black fathers impregnate women and they don't stay around with the women
And
that they have
why-
impregnated.
Charlie Kirk, do you think that happens more in the black community compared to others?
It's threefold. Number one, we subsidize single motherhood. Number two, it's culture. It's accepted in the black community, and it
so
shouldn't
it's
be.
culture. Okay.
Don't take my
I
word
see.
for it. Read Thomas Sowell's own book on how black culture allows single motherhood to continue into a nanny state type practice. 75% of black youth are raised without a father in the home. 75%. Is that a bigger problem or not a bigger problem than whiteness, white privilege, or white supremacy? How
They
can
should
you
all
blame?
be addressed, and they're all related.
Okay, how is a white person to blame for the fact that 75% of blacks?
Oh, individual white people aren't at all to blame.
Okay, we agree.
Yeah.
So, but wouldn't it be more smarter to be like, hey, that this is not about systemic racism. Like, stop impregnating your women and abandoning them.
Well, the way to incentivize not impregnating women and abandoning them is increasing access to healthcare, into housing, into everything that we know increases
so we've
those
done
outcomes
that.
for people.
So we have spent $30 trillion on the social welfare system since 1965. black people are poorer, and the single motherhood went from 25% to now 75 to 80%. So the more money we've spent on black America, the less fathers we have, because black women divorced black men and married the government.
And do you think that's a problem inherent to black people?
No, it's not. It's happening now in white communities and Hispanic communities. It's just the worst in black America.
And why do you think that is?
Why is it the worst in black America? There's also a cultural problem. There is, and we have to be honest about it.
It's just that black people are
No, let me ask you a question.
Like
The average music that a black person in Compton is listening to, is it about contemplating the good, the true, and the beautiful, or is it about being a gangbanger and trying to get as much money and sleep with about as many girls as you can?
I would actually like to think I would be offended by that.
Do you think the average black kid in Compton is listening to Beethoven or some sort of gangster rap music that glorifies gangster culture?
Silly question. Rap wasn't created to glorify gangster culture. So even though there is rap, I'm sure that's doing that.
You're dodging the question because...
Okay, I'm sure they're listening to rap.
Okay.
So you think rap music makes them leave their mom?
Do you think the cultural expectation in black America is that you stay with the woman that you impregnate?
Within black communities? I can't speak on that.
Okay, the answer is no. It's not. It's not expected.
Okay, and do you think that
hold on, in white Anglo-Saxon Protestant communities, it's a fact. Hold on. In upper middle class white communities.
Upper middle class. Say that part louder.
Yeah, upper middle class white Anglo-Saxon Protestant communities, if you impregnate a woman, you are looked down upon and we do not think highly of you if you abandon the woman that you impregnate. Mm-hmm. That's a cultural difference. Has nothing to do with money. Has nothing to do with anything except norms. And the norms that have infected black America are destroying it from within. We need more fathers, not less. We need more dads around and less drag queen story hour. We need more young blacks to be able to look up to role models that are not leaving all the time and are not just saying, hey, I impregnated her, so be it. It's a toxin, and if we don't address that as the root cause, it's white supremacy, it's injustice, it's economics, we're dancing around the core of the issue.
I guess what I'm saying is, right, and you've perfectly actually laid out the dichotomy here. It is a fact, obviously, that black people disproportionately commit crime in this country. No one's arguing that. But you either believe that that is due to a complex intersection of social, economic, and leftover effects from previous inequalities, or you believe that that is an inherent trait to the race.
No, I don't. Because they weren't that way in the 1940s and 50s. Black America was one of the most peaceful, flourishing, fastest growing economically communities in the country. It's not genetic. You're trying to point something on me that I don't believe. Instead,
but then
Black America...
But you do believe that it's not genetic, so you do think CRT is correct.
Hold on a second. In the 1940s and 1950s, Black America was prosperous and was on pace to be richer and wealthier than white America. More dads were staying with the women that they were with. There was monogamy. What changed?
You're supporting my argument.
No, hold on. But answer the question. What changed? Did America get more racist since the 1950s?
I would argue there were more racist policies passed. There were more policies dedicated to lining off those communities and pushing them into poor housing and poor schools.
Wait a second. In the 1950s, Jackie Robinson had not even broken the color barrier. We had Jim Crow laws. We hadn't passed the Civil Rights Act, and we hadn't passed the Voting Rights Act. Yet blacks were better in the 1950s per capita than they are today. So we have become less racist. We've passed more anti-racist laws and given more stuff, and blacks are worse than they were 70 years ago.
Yeah.
Why?
So you're equating here institutional and social racism. Social racism was certainly worse in the 1950s, I'm sure everyone would agree, but institutional racism occurs when policies are passed against people.
Come on.
Which can increase over time, and it did.
You're not being intellectually honest. You know that. There was black-only drinking fountains in the 1950s. We don't have those anymore. Well, we're bringing them back with, black-only dormitories, but we had, for example, in the antebellum South in the 1950s, we had white-only communities, by law. We got rid of that with the Civil Rights Act. But it didn't, unfortunately, we look around, the numbers speak for themselves. Black youth are less likely to have fathers. They're not doing as well as far as economically. They commit more crime. So something changed. And our argument is what changed is three things. Number one, the imposition of the Great Society Project by Lyndon Baines Johnson of spending $30 trillion since 1960s on Section 8 housing, on welfare, on all sorts, where, as I said, that young black women married the government and they divorced young black men. And then we also have had as Thomas Sowell and as Clarence Thomas would say, the soft bigotry of low expectations. And we have been afraid to get to the root of the issue or even speak about it because we don't want to be called a racist.
So what is imposing those low expectations?
Part of it is like white academic culture. I'll give you an example. I'm not saying you believe this, but Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, has come out and said having an ID to vote is racist. That is code for saying black people are too dumb to get a voter ID.
You're doing it again. You're simplifying a very nuanced, complex argument from the real people who are making it.
Is voter ID racist?
Obviously not, Charlie.
Okay, all right.
Do you want to know where the argument comes from? I can eloquently tell you.
Eloquently tell me why voter ID is racist or whatever.
Certain policies in southern states were proposed that would, like, I think the quote from the person who decided the case was, with surgical precision, target the times where black people were voting and make it like illegal or harder for them to get that to come at that time. And then they were targeting the type of ID that black voters had and making that specific type of ID illegal. That is racist.
Perfectly fair. How does that impact today, saying that every citizen, if you need an ID to vote, just that aside, why is it racist?
Because we have to have, obviously humans are making those decisions, right? And so if there is still institutional racism and people in power that are racist, we can't trust those institutions to make those decisions without
institutional
discriminating against
racism do we
people.
have in this country right now?
What you just named it.
What?
1350.
Okay, well, I mean,
affirmative action needs to happen because there is not that many minorities in these higher educations. Or higher education institutions.
Okay, so you're being clear, which is then you lower standards.
No.
Affirmative action always does. Affirmative action lowers standards by definition.
I'm saying why affirmative action was introduced. I'm not arguing for it.
Were you asking me why it was introduced, or?
No, I'm saying you agree that's why it was introduced.
Well, I agree why it was. I don't think it ever should have been, but yes.
Right, but there is institutional inequality, yes?
Well, I wouldn't even use the word inequality. I mean, I don't love looking at it that way, but of course, white people generally are richer than black people in this country.
Richer and more represented in politics and schools, yes?
Somewhat yes and no.
Why do you think that is, Charlie?
Well, hold on a second. Let's ask the question here. Represented how? So, I mean...
Look at Congressman.
So, no, hold on a second. Are white people represented fairly in the National Basketball Association?
Who cares? What political
power
does the national...
Hold on, I thought we're all about fair representation.
Listen.
I think that it should, by law, half of the NBA should be white.
Great, fine.
And the product would suck.
Lobby for it.
Because
I don't
blacks
care.
are much better at basketball than we whites are.
What political power does the NBA have?
A lot, actually. The NBA reaches millions of people every day. They have slogans that people internalize. In fact, if the NBA had no political power, why would they have to wear Black Lives Matter on all their jerseys? Why would politicians try to get their endorsements all the time? The NBA is more powerful than Congress in some ways of shaping the minds.
It's your turn to be academically dishonest.
Hold on a
now,
second.
Sure.
No. But if you want fair representation, just to be clear, then why would you not be against whites by law being half of the National Basketball Association? Right now, black people make up 88% of the NBA.
Do it, great. Who cares?
No,
I don't care. I'm saying,
okay.
Right, so here's my point.
All right, fine. I have a shot, everybody.
Please listen.
I could play for the Lakers.
I hope. Do it, Charlie. I'll come to your games. I'll do it.
The point is this, is that merit should triumph over all of it.
Which is awesome. Okay, so merit should triumph. We agree.
Okay.
Okay, Charlie, do you think black people are not as smart or competent as white people? Perfect. No. So they should, in theory, then be equally represented in positions of power.
Hold on. So have you ever read Discrimination and Disparities by Thomas Sowell?
Do you only read Thomas Sowell? You've quoted him like 3 times. I haven't read that.
No, I read a lot more than Thomas Sowell, but I'm happy to. Thomas Sowell's the only intellectual with the courage to go after like these core issues of why Black America has fallen behind and why no one actually has studied it. So let's just give a great example. When you don't have a father in the home, the amount of words that a child hears goes down by 60 to 70%. The amount of words that a child, I don't know if you're a mother or not, or plan to be. Okay. No, just it's an important point. The amount of words that an 18-month-year-old hears is highly predictive of IQ, verbal development. Okay, so that's simple. When you don't have a dad in the home, the mom is overwhelmed and there's just less interaction with the child.
That's all fine.
Okay, so we agree. I'm just saying that's not because of racism.
That's true. Obviously,
no, that's fine.
That's good.
No, she. I know what you meant. But you have a father in the home. All of a sudden, they hear thousands of more words a day, and they're like way further ahead of a single mother raising a child. That's not racism.
Okay, so dads are good. Yes, great.
Okay.
What my question to
I'm saying
you
dads
is,
actually answer most of the questions that you might have about why Black America is falling behind.
Okay, but
because their dads don't stay around, and
I'm
that's
trying
bad.
to sort of get to
Go
you to
ahead.
reconcile your own beliefs. And if that's true, which is fine, that's true. We can say that's true. You either believe that has social and economic causes, or you believe that, Black culture's just worse.
No,
and there
I
isn't
think
another
that
thing to think.
No, I
Those
was
are your
very
options.
clear. Right now, Black culture is being held captive by influences, songs,
Which
and role models.
influences?
I mean, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B.
Okay, Nicki Minaj is causing dads to leave the home.
Hold on a second. I don't think that's a good role model for 18-year-old Black girls. I don't think that songs that are talking about like glorifying wet female genitalia is exactly. I don't know which one wrote that song. Which one was it?
I think it was Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but by the way, the role models of the 1940s and 50s for Black America were completely different.
So it is a representation issue.
Hold on a second. No, not representation. It's who do you get your art from? It's what values are they putting forward? It's the question of every day. For example, more times than not, Black politicians will lament the condition of America. It's systemically racist. It's terrible. What does that do to a 14-year-old Black kid if you just find that you hear that everything is rigged against you? Instead, they should be saying, hey, there might be some barriers, but if you believe in yourself enough, you can achieve in this country. It creates a form of social conditioning of low expectations, and that's not my argument. You know whose argument that is? Barack Obama's.
I don't necessarily agree with everything he said either, man.
Barack Obama said, number one, we need more fathers in the home. This is when Barack Obama didn't go super woke.
Obama's a liberal. I don't care what he's got to say.
Okay, but Barack Obama then secondly, he said that we can't keep telling our Black youth that you can't succeed in this country. Anybody can succeed in this country. And Obama was right when he said that. Obama was correct when he said that we need to change the story we're telling Black America.
Which is fine. I've never heard any teacher look at a Black person and say, oh, you can't succeed because of racism.
Hold on a second. But what is the embedded message of all the propaganda saying it's systemically racist, you're going to run into racist employers, that they're going to discriminate against you? It creates this heaviness of why even try?
By the time college
Everything's
students
rigged.
get to college, they've experienced all that. They don't need to be told.
You think that the average? I'm curious. You think that the average Black student at this university experiences like active daily racism? I'd be curious.
I'd have to ask. You can ask them to raise their hands
I
if
don't
you'd
know.
like.
Maybe it's true. Maybe it's as bad as it was in the antebellum South. So
I'm not saying that, obviously.
Okay.
I did say
Fine.
social racism improved. I'm
Okay.
saying
To be
institutional
clear.
racism is still present, and that's what's causing lower outcomes for minority communities.
Do you think the reason why only 20 to 25%, it depends, we don't know the number, it's just a range per year.
Sure.
So 1 in 4 of Black youth have a stable father around. What would you just say is the big, why is that the reason?
A complex intersection of social and economic reasons, which are outlined in CRT.
Okay. Thank you for the dialogue. Thank you.
Okay.
How do you feel about like the current state of the economy and this whole theory of like immaculate disinflation? If you're familiar with the term,
Say that again.
immaculate disinflation.
Well, we're not living through that.
Okay,
But
yeah.
yes.
And where's your proof that we aren't exactly?
Are you talking disinflation?
Yes.
That we actually we're not seeing a surge in prices?
No, disinflation means the inflation rate is decreasing over time.
Well, so there is some evidence to show that, for example, televisions, iPhones.
Specific products. That's not an illustration of all inflation, though.
No, I was going to agree with you that.
Okay.
But if you just go to a grocery store, eggs are far more expensive than they were 2 years ago. You don't have to overthink it. I mean, the college degree here at this university, what is it per year, guys?
30,000.
How much?
They've been
10 in state, 30,000 out of state. Yeah, 10 years ago, I bet it was 18,000 out of state, right? So
Yes, but they've been trying to raise the Cal State tuition for quite some time, even before inflation spiked to its current levels or previous levels about a year ago. They've just been delaying it for quite some time. So
yeah,
it's not
I mean,
exactly.
We're living through a decades-long inflation surge, and the best evidence you could see it either in the artificial boosting of profit-earning
But even-
ratios. Go ahead.
Even during like Trump's administration, inflation was actually quite low. So that's not
No, it was low then,
necessarily
but
true.
it's not low right now.
Yes, but why was it low then? Would you say?
Well, because we had economic growth, and we weren't borrowing $2 to $3 trillion a
We
year.
actually were. We were borrowing quite a bit of money.
We were borrowing about $1 trillion a year.
Still
not
quite a bit.
So we're borrowing about triple that right now.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
got
I mean,
it.
I think that's how the math works
so
out.
triple in the law of big numbers is a big deal. So
Mm-hmm.
borrowing $800 billion, not excusable. Borrowing $2.5 trillion, morally reprehensible.
Morally, why exactly morally is there
Well,
a distinction between 1 and 3 trillion? Very arbitrary.
Because
guys.
everyone here is going to have to pay off that debt, and that dollar that you think is going to have value is decreasing by the day. Whether you're pro-choice or Democrat.
But inflation is something that's going to occur no matter what. Sorry.
Can I finish? Okay.
I apologize.
It's okay. Inflation is not a guaranteed human norm. That's not true, but I'll get to that in a second. Every single person here, it will be harder than ever for you to own a home. So inflation is immoral because you're going to enter into a housing market where everything costs 3 times as much in the housing market than it did a decade ago. You will not be able to afford a down payment, let alone even be able to build the capital necessary
True.
for other goods and services that
True.
you might want to build wealth. And you know who does benefit is your parents' generation and baby boomers, no
True.
offense,
True.
that do own their assets and you won't. And so, secondly, inflation is a choice. It's not built into the human experience.
The human experience, sure, but the economic system, especially a capitalist economic system, it definitely is. How would you
it
how would you
depends
try
how
to
you build a
achieve
central
0%
bank. Yeah,
inflation?
0% inflation?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want 0% inflation.
So then it is built in,
Inflation.
and it is a necessary evil.
No, I said I wouldn't want it.
Okay.
Moderate inflation is good for money velocity and for growth.
Yes.
But you need to manage that versus the growth rate, right? So
Yes.
this goes back to Milton Friedman's idea of the Chicago monetarism. You can laugh all you want.
Friedman? Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but what's so funny about Milton Friedman? The fact he's the greatest economist of the 20th century, or
Qualify. That's I don't know. I wouldn't say he's exactly that.
so you're more like a John
I respect your
John
opinion.
Maynard Keynes guy? So yeah.
Not necessarily.
Okay,
No.
but-
I just take a more broad approach than
Okay, so
specifically
we
Milton
don't
Friedman.
need to have a central bank. We do have a central bank.
Okay. Bold claim. I'll follow you though. I'll follow
You don't need to have a central
I
bank.
used to be very against the Federal Reserve as well.
Okay, I'm just saying you don't need to have one, but we
Okay.
choose to have one. The central bank has been overly politicized to try to stop, let's just say, natural economic cycles from occurring. Both administrations, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, have
Okay.
leaned on the central bank to use cheap money as a way
Yeah.
to try to keep
Okay.
the good times flowing and the good times going.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's definitely for sure.
So we don't agree. Well, we don't disagree.
Yeah, but here's the other thing I would say.
I gotta say, your protesters are kind of weak here, guys. I
Aren't they?
expected more
Aren't
out of
they?
them, right?
They didn't seem to have the energy to get all
I
the way
know.
to the
I
front.
thought they'd have more, Yeah, I like it. Please keep going, yeah.
I will say though, going back to the mortgage rates, as you were saying, I would say that probably has a lot more to do with private equity buying up homes than the inflation rate.
Well, hold on. There's 2 parts to that. I'm not talking
Okay.
just about mortgage. Interest rates are up. I'm talking about just the asset price itself.
That too, I would say it's a lot more related to private equity buying up homes.
But why is private equity doing that? Because they have so much cheap money that we've put into the system, they don't know what to do with it. Now, I think we could agree, actually, there should be laws against BlackRock coming in and buying single-family homes and renting them back. You should not be a society of renters. It's bad for society.
Yes.
So we can agree on that. I say
yes,
that as a
for sure.
conservative. It's bad for the human experience
Good,
and for
yeah.
generational flourishing. But when you open up the guzzle of cheap money, which we have done, especially
Yes.
post-COVID, there's a price to that. And the price is that your currency gets weaker. And we're seeing that right now.
Yes. So would you say that it was actually necessary in order to get out of the huge recession we experienced during the pandemic to...
No, I think we should have just opened up the economy. We never should have locked down the country.
Okay.
So we never should have borrowed the $6 trillion. We never should have done the stimulus stuff. It
So-
hurt every single one of you. It increased suicide rates, depression, anxiety, fiscal problems, economic problems, political problems.
I could definitely agree with that to some extent. But would you say even in, say, 2009, lowering the interest rates to 0 in that sense, was that
Well, we didn't
necessary?
go to 0. We didn't. We went down,
Well,
believe it or
okay.
not. We went to 5%. COVID, we went to near 0.
Yes.
But no, I have a contrarian view on 2008. I think we should have let the banks fail.
Ooh, okay.
And I think we should have. I think we actually should have allowed the market to solve it, not to
Okay.
have socialism for the rich and
You know what? Yes.
brutal capitalism for the working
I
class.
totally agree with that.
Okay, so
I totally agree with
I
that.
think that Wells Fargo, Goldman, I think that Lehman and the big banks that failed should have had to actually climb themselves out, or you destroyed a moral hazard is what you did, and 0 executives went to prison. I agree with Elizabeth Warren on this. None of these robber barons that did what they did in 08 served federal prison time. Meanwhile, and I will use a political statement to contrast it, grandmas that went into the Capitol on January 6th and took selfie videos are in federal prison. You ask me who's a bigger threat to democracy? Wall Street executives that bankrupted our economy in 2008 are a bigger threat to our country than people that walked into the Capitol building and took a selfie.
Now, let me ask you this. I don't know if my memory served me correctly, but who was... did Steve Mnuchin serve under the Trump administration?
Yeah, he was from Government Sachs.
Did he serve under the Trump administration?
That's right, yeah.
So why would Trump invite someone like that who should probably be in federal prison into his administration?
I have a lot of personnel disagreements. I love Trump, but I think
You love Trump?
Love Trump.
Why would you love? Why would? So
Do we love Trump, everybody?
so to ask a broader question,
Yes.
why would you love any politician? They have a job to do. Why be emotionally attached in that sense?
And I don't say this like lightly. I do have a friendship with him. I've gotten to know him over a couple
Okay,
years.
okay.
So
And
I also
disclosing bias. Okay.
100% biased. And
Good.
so I also think whether you hate him or love him, he's a once in 100 year.
But why would you hate him or love him? He just has a job to do.
Well,
right?
I also love what he did as country.
Okay.
As president for the country. So.
Would you say though that you're probably more of a fiscal conservative?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I probably his borrowing was one of the two. So 3 things, if you want to just be full disclosure,
Yeah.
that I think President Trump could have done better, and I think he will do better. Fiscal deficit spending. Okay.
Why do you think he will do better?
Let me get to all 3. Okay.
Okay.
COVID and certain personnel choices. Okay.
Okay.
Those are the 3 things, and
Okay.
and I could list 100 accomplishments. Those are 3 things I think that the first administration, that wasn't their best.
Yeah.
Why it could have been better? I think that he's got the world against him, and if he becomes president again, which the 50-50 shot he will, he's going to set the world on fire.
I would say he's a little bit too egotistical and emotional to really counter the world being against him. He seems to react a little too emotionally to these kinds of things.
I don't want to get too deep into it, but you're not gonna convince me on negative Trump stuff. So
Okay, interesting. So your mind isn't necessarily that open. Doesn't this change my mind?
you could try.
Okay.
I mean, you're not gonna.
But didn't you just say kind of up front that you're not really gonna
I'm
change
open-minded to
your
hear it.
opinion?
I'm just saying you're not going to change my mind on that
Okay.
kind of stuff.
Okay. So then, what is it that's leading you to think that Trump is going to have better decision making in this next term, specifically when it comes to borrowing? Because he is
Probably
going
out
to
of necessity. I mean, I don't know, and honestly,
Okay.
there's little evidence except the fact that
Just a little intuition.
We're going to have a debt crisis, the likes of which the country's never seen, and he's going to have to address it. We need to have severe cuts in the federal budget. We need
Okay.
to push
So would you say that the downgrading of America's credit rating is more related to our national debt or the inability to handle it in a mature way?
more both, but more just the debt itself is.
Okay.
I mean, we now owe more than we're worth as a country. So I want to
Yeah.
get to other questions because you've had
Okay.
some time. But final
Perfect.
question. I want to be respectful, but.
So I guess if you think that that's an issue that we have more debt than say our current income?
Well, we do.
Well, yeah, but if you would
just
say
the value of the country.
Of course,
yeah.
of course, we control our own currency, and our currency is
Yeah, are you a
the
modern
number one
monetary theory
reserve
guy? So
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so-
It's the number one reserve, so that gives us a lot of wiggle
so
room.
it's decreasing. It used to be 75% of the world's reserve currency status 20 years ago. Now it's 55%.
I would say
Do you know
a lot-
about BRICS? You know BRICS, right? BRICS.
Yeah, I do, I
BRICS
do.
is creating an alternative.
I think they're a paper
dollar.
tiger.
Okay. I actually hope you're right.
I don't believe
I
that
hope you're right.
India, China, South Africa, and Russia could ever work together to create their own
I hope you're right.
unified currency.
I just hope we're not too prideful.
Definitely a paper tiger.
I've seen you talk a lot about objective morality, and my big question is, it feels like you can make good statements and bad statements without referencing some kind of moral book. So I can say something is good, right? I had a good day today, and it doesn't really feel like I need to reference religion for that. So can you explain to me why you think we need to have some kind of absolute standard for morality?
Excellent question. It's really good. If you say you have a good day, are you describing the experience you had, or was it morally a good day?
So yeah, it would be a good day. So I can narrow it down more, I guess. Or I can ask, I guess, a better question. So if I don't have religion, right? Let's say I am an atheist or something, and I were to go up to, I find 2 books. One's the Quran, and then one is the Bible. And I read both of them, and then I have a feeling of preference towards one or the other. That makes me feel like morality probably isn't objective because I read 2 moral codes, I didn't have one before, and then I derived one after reading it.
But one is true.
Well, yeah, obviously if you go in with the presupposition that one is true, but
So
clearly,
let's play this out. Not sorry to interrupt. If I'm on an island, and let's just demystify part of this, and there's the Bible, and then there's Lord of the Rings, and I end up believing in one of those, which is true.
well, what's true is just what corresponds with reality. We're talking about.
I agree. So which
Yeah.
one has evidence, and when applied in the natural world, actually shows a flourishing people and society and a way to live? Because you would agree, at least out of 8 out of 10 of the 10 commandments, they're pretty good rules for life,
No,
right?
yeah, 100%.
Of course, yes.
No, but
so
the
great.
thing that I'm talking about doesn't have to do with whether or not Christianity is good or bad, or whether
No,
I
that's
agree
not what
with
you're saying.
most
I know.
of. Yeah, it's just regarding like, yeah, one can be true, but even if one is true, it doesn't really feel like I'm influenced in terms of what I feel is good or bad, because obviously, there are people who are Muslim who have read, the Bible and still are more persuaded by Islam.
No, of course. I mean, you could be persuaded by anything, right? That doesn't. I believe that there is a transcendent way of living. I call that the Bible, right? And I believe it's the perfect catalog from creation to the end of the world. You don't have to agree with that. I'm talking strictly from a moral sense. So let's just ask a separate question, which is, do you think people are naturally, outside of religious teaching, good or not so good? The nature of humanity.
The nature. I wouldn't be comfortable making a statement about it.
Fair enough, and I appreciate that. So we believe, as Christians or those in the space, human beings are pretty awful, okay? That we're broken, that we're sinful, that we fall short of the glory of God, and that we need to teach people how to be good. A common left-wing belief is that human beings are actually awesome, and they're terrific, and the reason why things are not so good is because of capitalism or the patriarchy or feminism or whatever. So you're asking a question of, why do we need objective morality? Well, or what specifically?
Yeah, so not necessarily why we need objective morality, but you seem to be, because obviously I don't believe that it's a thing, but you seem to make the claim that
do you believe that absolutely?
No.
Okay, good.
But
you're consistent.
Yeah, the big thing is for me, even if I have a God, there is no thing telling me, it's just like the is-ought problem, right? That's like my big contention, right? How am I ever going to derive a claim about what I should do from only statements about the nature of being?
Got it. So you would believe murder's wrong?
Yeah.
Why do you believe that?
Because in its definition, it says it's wrong, right? It's wrong killing of somebody, or at least that's my understanding of it.
Okay, so for example, you go to an African village, happens all the time. They leave a full-born baby by the fire. They don't want it. They discard it. Happens tons of times. Any missionary will tell you that. They just discard babies. Why? They don't believe it's wrong. It's just in their code and custom. No one feels bad about it. Just discard kids you don't want. Are they wrong?
For me, yeah, they're wrong. Yeah. It's a bullet I do have to bite from my worldview.
Hold on. Are they objectively wrong? Is it objective?
No. Because I don't believe in objective morality. So that can apply to any statement.
So it's not objectively wrong to leave a full-born baby by the fire and just say, you're on your own, have a nice life.
Well, yeah, I'm calling into question objective morality, so I obviously have to bite
No, I know.
that
I'm
bullet.
just trying to make you hear back how insane what you are saying.
Well, you're making a claim about the objectivity of it.
No,
you're
I know.
not making a claim about whether it's wrong. Obviously, I think it's wrong.
Let's get more graphic. So you put 1,000 Jews in a gas chamber, and the Nazis thought what they were doing was good, and they pressed the button. Were they right or were they wrong in gassing millions of Jews?
Objectively, you can't, when you say, is it objectively wrong? Hold on, wait. If you say it's objectively wrong, you're implying that you can derive a truth value from it. And I don't think you can. So I don't think that you can make a true statement regarding whether something's good or bad.
Got it. So just to be clear, the Nazis could have been right in their actions, in your view.
That implies that right is an actual thing. I don't believe you can determine a truth value from a moral claim.
So the Nazis were not objectively evil.
Yeah, I've said that 4 times. You can't derive objective moral statements from things. I'm not saying they're not wrong. They are wrong. Oh.
Well, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, I just want to make sure this is important, because what you are saying, and you're saying it very clearly, is that we look at the Holocaust and it's just a matter of opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem of being an atheist. You have to bite the bullet.
I respect your intellectual clarity, and I will say...
And obviously, for clarity,
no.
I obviously think the Holocaust is wrong. So if anyone's questioning about
that... No, but it's just your opinion. I believe that it's objectively wrong, no matter who you are or where you come from, because it transcends opinion. Do you think, last question, I appreciate your clarity on this, do you see how your view could result in a lot of dead people?
Well, I don't think my view is really I'm not making a claim that we should behave in a way.
No, you're making claims.
Well... I am making claims, yeah, but I'm not making a claim that we should behave in a certain way, or that we ought to not have Christianity or some kind of moral
I'm not saying
code.
that, but let me play this out, and I think you'll understand.
No, I understand, because you're going to say, well, there's all these bad things that could happen if people follow me.
Or that did happen. No, I'm not following you. If your view becomes a view of a country, and for example, putting 1,000 Jews in a gas chamber is not deemed as objectively wrong, transcendent above anyone's opinion, then all of a sudden, what would prevent that evil thing from occurring and nobody questioning it?
Sure. So my main idea, I guess, with the worldview is I'm not making a claim again about how things should be. I'm making a claim that this is how things are. So within my worldview, this is all fine. You can have people agreeing that things are wrong. Generally, I think most people's moral intuitions will lead them to thinking that things like murder is wrong and stealing is wrong because it makes you feel bad, right?
No, well,
if I see somebody get hurt, that makes me feel bad. If you see somebody die,
course,
that makes you
totally.
feel bad.
Yeah, the SS guards didn't feel bad when they killed Jews, and that's okay. But do you see where this might unravel into mass murder and societal chaos?
Yeah, that happens in the real world. I'm making a description about the way people derive their morals. I'm not saying how we should or shouldn't. I'm saying this is how you derive your morals. If you have two books there, the trueness or correspondence with reality has zero anything to do with your preference towards, one moral system or another.
Hold on. Or maybe the true one says, don't gas the Jews.
That would be,
murder,
that would be obviously,
because God will judge you harshly.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe just hear me out. Maybe the true one says that life is good and that there is a creator who loves you.
But
maybe,
now what you're doing is you're just making claims about what you think, yeah, obviously it would be awesome if I had a moral code that everyone had to follow that agreed with
I know,
things
if
that
only
I said.
a book existed.
Yeah, I know, if only. But my entire
if only
point
there
is
was
that
this
all the things
amazing
that
book.
Yeah, but my point is that
No,
all
you're being super clear. I appreciate it.
Okay, yeah.
No, and you're the first person ever, to your credit, to answer the atheist Nazi question clearly, which is that an atheist cannot objectively say that the Holocaust was wrong.
I'm arguing against objective, the idea that...
No, you're being... Usually there's some withering there. You went right into there.
Well, yeah, I can't go in here and, not bite the bullets of, what my argument implies,
We have clarity but not agreement. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Do you view democracy as an American value, something that's very important to the fabric of this country?
No. Where is democracy in the U.S. Constitution?
Oh, okay. So are you...
No, hold on. Where is the word democracy?
I don't think the word democracy is
it's
in
not.
the Constitution.
So where is the word democracy in any of the founding fathers?
A lot of the founding fathers had extremely elitist viewpoints around who should...
No, hold on. I just want to... You said the word democracy, so I want to get back to our roots.
Yes.
Where is democracy mentioned? In the Federalist Papers, the Constitution, or the Declaration?
I think it's good that this country has moved away from things that were explicitly believed by the founding
fathers. In the Federalist
fathers.
Papers, and it's mentioned negatively as a problem. So you ask me, is democracy a fundamental American value? I say no.
Okay.
Because I go back to our roots. And Hamilton, Madison, and Jay...
Oh, I know that Hamilton was anti-democracy.
No, well, hold on,
these
let me
people
finish.
thought that people should be owned as
I want to be clear. I
Yeah.
am pro-representative government,
Okay.
but I'm not pro-democracy. That's a big difference, and that distinction's important. But you asked very specifically about democracy, which is not an American value. It never has been and never should be, because what is democracy? Democracy is majority rule no matter what. That there's no provisions of checks and balances, no inalienable rights, no separation of powers, pure if the majority gets it, the majority wants it as quickly as possible.
I don't advocate pure democracy. I do understand that we live in a
Cool.
representative, we live
Got
in a
it. So
republic, and I
believe in
understand these things.
representative government.
Okay.
And you might say I'm splitting
Well, I
hairs
would-
on words, but
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, just coming from a place where, on some level, we have a level of democracy in this country, and people vote, and it is part of their civic duty to vote.
Sure.
Yes. Do you not think it is in the greater interest of this country at large that its citizens are as educated as possible to therefore be able to participate in that system?
I think they should be as wise as possible, and I don't think that education and wisdom are the same thing.
Yeah,
in fact,
I understand.
I think college disincentivizes the cultivation of wisdom.
In the age where there is such a hypersaturation of, and we've seen this, extremely polarizing, different, people are getting their news from wildly different sources.
Yes.
People just don't interact with the other side at all. Do you think that being an autodidact, in any sense of the term, is going to give you a thorough and rigorous education if you are so likely to end up sucked into these holes where you're never interacting with people who
That's not my only form of learning. I meet a lot of cool people. I learn from people like you and others. I mean, I'm listening when you're talking. It's not just a shtick. You haven't won me over on any of it, but you had an opportunity to. But I'm glad you attempted to. But yeah, I mean, you learn in other ways other than just sitting in a classroom, listening to a professor drone on for 90 minutes and pretending to read his book and paying $20,000 a semester to cheat on the exam at the end of the semester.
I think college is what you make of it. I
agree. So is life.
People are selling themselves short on their education if they don't.
You can listen to as many podcasts as you want. You can meet interesting people. And
academia does have an actual level of you have to prove that you're worth your salt, at least to have peer-reviewed papers published,
No, I mean, yeah,
which
if
you
you get
don't
a
have
P-
to do to start a podcast.
If you get a PhD, yes, but hold on. So is your contention that I'm not informed or not worldly or not wise? I want to be clear.
I'm not making any claims about your specific level of being informed. I'm
Okay.
saying the general rhetoric on the right against education, against higher education
Well, hold on.
specifically.
Why do you think it is? Is it because you think we hate smart people, or is it that there's something happening here that we really think is troubling?
I think it's much easier to control people who are less educated.
See, now you're a conspiracy theorist. So, no, it's...
Anti-intellectualism is a hallmark of fascism.
Do you think we're against higher education because it largely has created an ungrateful, unprepared generation that goes into the American body politic and does not share the core American values of freedom of speech, gratitude for our founding, consent of the governed? In fact, it's hyper-radical. And it's against our traditions, our norms, and our customs, and it's created massive fissures. We call that the woke mind virus, if you will.
Okay, that makes...
It's not because people are easier to control. In fact, we love learning. I learn every day. In fact, that's why I'm pro Hillsdale College, where it's probably one of the hardest colleges in the country to get into and graduate from. The problem is that when you are learning largely trash and crap, and you're not going in the pursuit of truth, beauty, or goodness, and you're not trying to inculcate wisdom or good character,
There's no oversight on online political punditry to make sure that you're in pursuit of wisdom and goodness.
No, of course
you
there's not.
directly profit from propagating viewpoints that are more polarizing and that suck people deeper into more conspiratorial thinking.
Hold on. So what you're doing is you're actually insulting the audience, not me. Because the vast majority of this audience actually enjoys watching my videos, and they enjoy hearing from me.
I never said your audience didn't enjoy watching your videos.
Because you say I'm profiting. The way
you do profit, you financially, you make a ton of money from getting more clicks.
The audience rewards me because they find that I bring some value.
Well, I don't
and that they
necessarily
learn something
think
from
that
me.
whatever gets
I
the
want to get
most
to the next
eyes
question.
on a specific...
But it's easy to attack me as exploitation. What I say is actually very popular and resonates with people. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, I've seen the socialism side, so...
Yeah, well, I don't like your ideology. I don't know about you.
of
You
course.
seem like a nice enough person.
Yeah.
Your ideas are practically evil, but that's
Oh,
okay.
well, same for you.
Okay, tell me why.
What?
Tell me why.
Capitalism is a vampire. I don't know.
Is it what?
I said that capitalism is a dead vampire that feasts on the blood of the working class.
Capitalism is a deadly vampire that feasts on the blood of the working class.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that for me?
I don't really want to right now, but because
Do you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
So you're feasting on the blood of the working class. How dare you?
Yeah. I know.
How do you feel about that?
We all have to do the best that we can.
No, you don't. Why don't you go live on a farm and not use the fruits of the working class and just be a socialist with your friends? Why use the fruits of the free market? Isn't that kind of hypocritical?
No, because the free market is so pervasive, we have no choice but to use it.
No, like I said, you could go live on a farm by yourself, like the Amish do, or like socialists in Vermont do, but yet you choose to live in a free market society and benefit from it, and use the heat and the light and the well-being and the medicine and the food all as a byproduct of a market-based society.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it, but...
Oh, you love it, but you said it's a vampire sucking the blood of the working class, so isn't that a little contradictory?
What?
What's your dad's opinion?
My dad's opinion?
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 18.
Is your dad the same persuasion as you?
No. No,
I don't
he's
think-
a Republican.
Slightly, that's okay then.
He's
Republican.
Yeah, he's a Republican.
But no one's preventing. See, here's the thing: no one's preventing you from living like a socialist. You can go do that, but your worldview would prevent me from living like an entrepreneur or like a capitalist. So inherently, your ideology is built on control of other people's choices. Ours is built on freedom. If you want to go live like a socialist, I have no problem with that. You can go start your own socialist colony in rural Utah, buy your own land and share your own water and share your own food. That's what's so amazing about voluntary societies. Whereas what you talk about is a coercive society. I don't have that freedom to live how I want to live under the worldview that you espouse. And I think that's immoral.
You're forcing them.
And again, I don't believe in revolutionary socialism.
I didn't accuse you of that. You said
I
Democrat
believe-
socialism.
Yeah. That's just the club that was really, I'm fairly Marxist, honestly.
Okay, let's talk.
That's just the club that I'm in. But I believe that eventually we will get to a state where enough people, we will collectively come together and say, hey, this is better, for all of us. I don't, obviously, with the world we live in today, like, socialism can't exist, like today in America. Like, I'm very pragmatic, at my core.
Okay.
I'm like, I recognize that's never going to happen.
You said the Marxist thing. Can you give me an example where Marxism has ever worked?
No, but that's because we current.
But it's been tried over 100 times in the last 100 years, and it's never worked. It's 0 for 100. And isn't that kind of concerning to you?
Well, so the thing is, in a Marxist state, it's a stateless, classless, money society.
Right, and so that's just utopia, man. I mean, that's no different than a fiction novel about Neverland. It's been tried, and the results are hundreds of millions of people dead.
But that's ultimately what the true concept utopia is.
Right. So here's the question: you think utopia is attainable?
I think it is, not in our lifetime.
Okay.
Have you read the Communist Manifesto?
Yeah. And so, I guess the struggle I have here is you espouse a viewpoint that has never worked. You think's never going to work in our lifetime and never work in this country. That's no different than me believing in something of a work of fiction.
But that doesn't mean that you can't work towards it.
So how would we go about working towards it? That's where the revolutionary component comes in, isn't it? So maybe you are a little more revolutionary than you admit it.
I don't think I am. I think that when you look over time and you see how societies have changed and how they've progressed and everything, I think that eventually we'll get to a point where people will be able to criticize.
Well, so let me ask you a question. Do you think some people are better at some things than others?
Sure.
Okay, so then in your utopian society, where would a smarter person fit in versus a not so smart person? Would there be hierarchies or no in your fictitious utopian Marxist society?
Utopian Marxist society. Well, at that point, automation will have taken over enough so that you have to what is to
Are you familiar with this thinking?
No, I'm very familiar. I'm trying to
thinking is that
No, trust me. I'm not asking to figure it out. I'm actually to deconstruct. I don't actually think he believes this.
I'm saying that because of the modern age, there is a new variable, right, which is automation.
Yeah.
So very familiar with it, but that will never get rid of hierarchy. So.
For the 2020 election, there's what's his name? There's a candidate who believes in the
the Asian American guy.
Yeah.
Very nice guy. You or something. But here's the thing. Karl Marx argued that in the 1870s, and we've had huge automation, and we still have hierarchies. So no matter how hard you try, some people are going to work harder at certain things and be more proficient at them than others, whether it be music, sports, anything. In the fictitious Marxist society, it means the complete total abolition of any sort of hierarchy whatsoever. And so that's something you would believe in. Okay, so that's anti how we're actually built as people. Some people are taller, some people are smarter, some people have higher IQs, some people have more drive. Only in a market-based society are those differences able to elevate the standard of living for all people and actually make some sense of a broken world. And there's been so many times that Marxist fictitious utopian communism has tried to be implemented. Over a short period of time, like the Paris Commune, it falls apart. Do you know why? Because human beings are inherently selfish. And so if you try to build a commune, for example, after 20 days, you're going to have one guy saying, no, I want 2 loaves of bread, not 1. And he might be smart enough to be able to figure out how to do that. Then all of a sudden there'll be a small subdivision that will break away from him and you have a conflict. The only reason we have a civil society in the West is in order to get 2 loaves of bread in the West, you have to earn it. You can't take it away from somebody else. That's where Marxist utopian fictitious communism breaks down.
This is an interesting topic. I should probably get to class.
Thank you. I hope you learned something there.